Hi, Misha here. Doing another vacation. I think you guys called them vlogs. I'm not sure it's a vlog if there's no technical video. I wish YouTube would just let me upload an audio file like an MP3 or set like an MP3 with a slideshow. Be much more entertaining. Oh well. It's the weekend. I was hoping to get some relaxing done, maybe even a little drinking, but probably not happening. Too many things need to get done, and at the end of the day, actually getting things accomplished makes me feel better than dicking off. I don't know. Can't say I exactly feel guilty when I get stuff done, although it does set on my mind. But I definitely feel good when I accomplish things. I never get everything I need done. There's always more work than time or energy. But, if I've got a list of 5 things and I get 3 or 4 done, it always makes me feel better. I've always liked getting things taken care of. Have your weekends been? Any news? Weather's been... Today it's sunny and about 70 degrees. It was pretty rainy, dreary yesterday and Friday. So, mostly just stayed indoors yesterday and about it. Not a whole lot going on. Trying to take care of a few home improvement things. The tile in my wife's bathroom and their shower stall cracked, and so we're now having to put new tile down and take care of all that jazz. It's always a mess. Whoever remodeled her bathroom before we bought the house, either the people who paid them told them to go cheap, or they just did, because every time we uncover their work, it's shiny. Can't exactly say below code or substandard, but it's, the cheapest, easiest that would be allowed type thing. I don't know. I've always felt buy once, cry once, try to do things proper and right. That's just, that way you don't have to worry about it again. Because if you try to patch stuff, in my opinion, if you try to Band-Aid solution it, then you're just going to have to deal with it 6 months or a year down the road, and the first spot of money, even if it was less, is just wasted, just gone. I mean, yeah. I feel that way with sunglasses. I see a lot of people, they'll buy like cheap $20, $10, whatever, Walmart sunglasses, and they'll buy 2 or 3 pairs a year. Sometimes they lose them, sometimes they sit on them, sometimes they just break. I've always found that if I just buy one good pair of sunglasses, not super high-end, but decent, $100 plus, they last me, I think my current set I've had 5 years, and they're fine. And I guarantee you, people who buy cheap ones have spent more money on cheap sunglasses in that 5 years than I have on my nice set. But the counter to that is, if you're going to buy decent stuff, you need to take care of it. And yeah, don't sit on it, because nice sunglasses are not. If you sit on them, you will break them. So, but I think sometimes if we spend money, if something's cheap, we don't care. If something's expensive, we do tend to take better care of it. I don't know. I mentioned in the comments of the last vlog video that talking about millennials and generation stuff. I'm sincerely curious what it's like to grow up, I guess, after I was an adult. If you were born in the 90s or even 2000s now, because we're getting on towards 2020, what it was like for you. I mean, I can speculate, I can talk with people, but I don't have first-hand information. And if you haven't guessed by now, that's really important to me to really have first-hand accounts. And I feel like if I don't have those, I can't make a very decent assessment. But I don't have disdain for so-called millennials. Not at all. For one thing, I don't envy the world they grew up in. I mean, I grew up, when I was born, the Cold War was still going on, but it wasn't as scary as it would have been earlier, say in the 50s. By the 70s and 80s, there wasn't a huge worry about nuclear war. I mean, it was always a thing, but it just didn't sit in the zeitgeist too heavily. I think because it had been something people had lived with for long enough, they'd gotten used to it. And then when I was a teenager, the Cold War ended, and so we had that celebratory thing. And then, of course, the 90s were pretty decent. It was interesting to me to have Bill Clinton as president then, because he was from our state. The economy was pretty sharp, not too bad. International relations are pretty good with the U.S. and the rest of the world. The 91 Gulf War had gone pretty well with minimal loss of life, frankly, on both sides. And it was over quickly. Vietnam was enough in the past that kind of had gone away. Can't really say drug use was super low, but I think the opioid thing had not hit full gear yet, and methamphetamine wasn't quite as widespread. Back then, I don't know, there was cocaine and marijuana, but yeah, of course heroin and all that stuff, but it's a different time. And then, of course, the most famous blowjob in the world happened, and that was entertaining. I was living in a dorm at that time, and that was, that was fun to watch on TV. And then, of course, everything changed. The 2000 election was already pretty divisive, and then not a year later, 9/11 happened. I was on a bus when that all went down. And then, of course, Afghanistan and the second Iraq War. No, I don't envy the world that millennials have grown up in. I'm sure it wasn't all that positive. And, of course, many of them fought in Afghanistan and Iraq. They've had a war, maybe not in like World War II, but enough. I think we've all known people who served, family or friends, whatever, and that takes a toll. And the whole college situation. The idea of pushing kids to go to college to have a better life was originally, I think, a good one. But it's been perverted and twisted. Now, everyone goes to college, virtually. And the whole student loan thing, college tuition has just gone crazy, and therefore student loans. And when I went to college, and before me, you could graduate with little to no debt at all. And I mean, back then, if you had 10 grand in debt, that was considered a lot. A lot of people, because of scholarship or just working, were able to get out, and that meant they could get a job. But now, you get out of school and you have 30, 40, 50, 100,000, even depending on which region you're in debt. And now you're entering a workplace where everyone has jobs. The college degree has become like the high school degree used to be. And if you want to go for a master's or a doctoral degree, it's just more time and more debt. And the way part-time jobs work now, it's harder to do that and go to college because of how scheduling is. So no, I don't envy it. And so they're entering a workplace already in debt, and job security and competition are so The job security is so low now. You can be let go from a company so without cause. I mean, just they're downsizing or shifting or whatever. And if you ask too much for a raise, who cares? They can just let you go and hire the next person out of the college mill who has your same degree. Meanwhile, flip that on its head. Just today I had a guy over here working on the tile for that bathroom, and try finding a good roofer or a good bricklayer or a good tile guy or electrician or plumber. They're booked up. They are busy as all hell. I mean, he's here on a Sunday. That tells you how much work he has to do. And I think the reason he came here on a Sunday was a friend of a friend asked him to help me out. But yeah, and they make damn good money considering what they do. And they don't have to be worrying about being let go by their boss. They work when they want. And to get their profession, they didn't have to go into debt. So, I don't know. It's kind of a flip. I know there's still more prestige with a lot of college-type careers, but on the other hand, prestige or not, a good plumber when your house is flooding is your hero. So, I don't know. It seems like to me, having a useful job is maybe more important than bragging rights. Earlier in the summer, we had that plumbing issue, or our house was having problems. A pipe had, anyway. But one of the guys who was here, a younger guy who was helping the veteran plumber fix it, he's a plumber, and his fiance is a doctor, a medical doctor. And it's interesting to me to have a doctor and a plumber married. And honestly, the way doctors are paid today, at least, the non-specialist or just like a basic young doctor, they're probably drawing in about the same income. And she's a heck of a lot in debt. He's not. So in a lot of ways, he's helping support them. Now, they both, of course, work long hours. But it's a world. And then the whole banking situation, buying a house today is not like it used to be at all. And good credit doesn't really help you with that. There's a metric you have to meet. When the banks got all those bailouts years ago, they came with strings attached from the federal government, and one of them was basically the whole ratio of debt to income has to look right on the computer for them to let you have debt with the bank to take a loan out. And that's hard to sometimes make look right when you can't get a full-time job or you have a huge amount of student loans hanging over your head. Very hard. A lot of people say the millennials are plugged into their phones a lot, and they are. But I've seen plenty of people in their 30s, 40s, 50s that are just as attached to their phones. So I think that's just a thing. I think some people are just more apt to get kind of hooked on the little device in their pocket. And millennials maybe are a little more socially awkward, have less social exposure. But is that really their fault? I mean, they're going with how they were raised. And whenever you start judging an entire generation, you have to also look at their parenting. But I don't know. You hear all these things about participation trophies and safe spaces at universities and all this stuff. You hear it, you read it. But I'd like to hear from actual students today or actual young people about what the reality is. Not just, I read it on this news website or I heard it on MSNBC or Fox or CNN. Not that. I don't trust the media at all anymore, because they don't even, they've got their own thing. I'd like to hear individual accounts, because I am sincerely curious if this is the reality or if it's being blown out of proportion. I don't know. That stuff interests me. I really wouldn't want to be young again. On the other hand, it would be interesting to, like, day in the life type thing, just to see what it's like being young now and growing up at the time. Just as I'm sure previous generations to my own would be, if not amazed, at least maybe interested in what I grew up in, how we grew up. Because every generation now is changing, which is funny, because if you go back in history, things didn't change for decades, even centuries sometimes. I mean, parents, kids, grandkids, great-grandkids grew up, worked, got married, had kids, died, and it was, very unchanging. No matter what class you were. I mean, technology was pretty well static for a very long time. But then we hit the 20th century, even the 19th, if you count the Industrial Revolution, and things have been changing faster and faster. It went from, changing every 30 or 40 years to now, just within 5 or 10 years, it's a different world. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if the speed up continues, or if it plateaus, or if it reverses. That kind of stuff interests me. Society interests me a lot. And I'm infinitely curious about such things. So when I ask questions, when I kind of pick at stories and things, it's not because I'm trying to necessarily tear something apart. It's because I want the truth. I want knowledge. I am actually asking questions because I want the answers. I'm not trying to get what I want to hear. I'm trying to get as close to the reality as I'm able. I mean, I'm not emotionally invested in one way or the other. But, I don't know, I'm curious about other people, about other lifestyles, and what people are going through and things. I have spent time in cities, including New York City. Can't say I'm an expert, but I have, been outside of my area here in the past, and have seen other ways of life and met other people, and found that very interesting. On the one hand, I wish I could travel more like I used to. On the other hand, I'm kind of getting to that point in my life where it's lost some appeal, just because routine does become more and more important to you as you get older. Also, responsibilities, when you have those, it gets hard to cut out. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I just kind of said I might talk about this a bit. Those are just my thoughts. For what they are. Well, I better quit wasting time. I need to do some cleaning, sort some laundry out, think on dinner, maybe work on a few more airplane and gun videos, things of that nature. And then tomorrow, Monday, things roll back around. Another week begins. So, they never stop. That's one thing that's really interesting as you get older, is time does go by faster, the perception. And I think it's because of our memories. When you're young, 5, 6 years old, you don't have a lot of memory to feed on, so it's all proportional. But as you get older and older, you have more memory and more time. I think more things become routine. We tend to remember stuff that's new and fresh. And as you get older, there's less and less of that, to the point that some days go by where nothing really new, no new experience happens. It's stuff you've been. So I think our minds don't store the information in the same way that they did. I mean, almost all of us remember our first time at anything, trying new food, new drink, sex, drugs, rock and roll, whatever. The first time we heard a band we really liked. But then after that, the impressions become less and less, and it's just how it is. Nothing to worry about. It's how our minds work. On the other hand, think about how overwhelming it would be if we remembered everything as clearly and vividly every time we experienced it. It'd be overwhelming. We couldn't function. So, But yeah. Alrighty, folks. Well, hope you had a good weekend and have a good night. And I will be back soon with something or other. I don't know what it'll be, but something. This is Misha. And I'll catch you very soon next time.